Alrighty, welcome to Patty's Crafty Spot, and we are all set. I'm going to show you how to go ahead and make this. I just want to thank you for stopping by and checking out my tutorial. This is a multi-part tutorial video series. I will link them all down below to you, as well as the final review on this mini album. I hope you have fun creating this. If you have any questions, please leave them down below and I will get back to you. If you do happen to make this, please tag me. I am on all social media at Patty's Crafty Spot, and I would love to see what you made if you went ahead and made this album. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the video series, and thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more videos, and enjoy, guys. Have fun. Okay, so now we are going to get started on this particular page right here. This has two gatefold tags along with these little belly bands to keep everything together when you put a tag down through it. So we're going to get started and we're going to make this. Now the only thing different on the new album that I'm making is I'm not going to do this window pocket. I'm just going to do a shorter pocket on here, and you can make any pocket that you want. The measurement wide is, it needs to be, it's 7 3/4 wide after the flap. So you're going to need to make it 8 3/4 with a 1/2 inch on each side, and then whatever height pocket you want to make, and that will fit right there. So let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to be working on, again, this page right here. So what I did was I went ahead and I already prepped some of my pieces. So I did cut out my 2 pieces of tags, and these are made with the Crealies die, and it's going to be, whoops, and it's the die number CNLELT09 right there, and I use the largest tag along with the matching piece for the pattern paper. Alright, so I already went ahead and cut those out, and to save time, I've already prepped everything. So those are 2 pieces you're going to need. Now to attach them to the page, you're going to need 2 6 by 1.5 inch strips right here, and you're going to score them at 3/4 of an inch down the middle, and you're going to apply some score tape on both sides. I happen to use 5/8 inch score tape for that. And then the little straps on the front, I cut 3 pieces at 1 by 4 and whoops, I covered up my measurements. Okay, so the straps are 1 by 4.5, so you're going to need 3 of those, and then you're going to need 3 more pieces at 1 by 5.5, and you're going to score on each end at a 1/2 inch. So you're going to have those 3 like that. And let's just prep these ones first, get these ones out of the way. So what you're going to do is on each 1/2 inch, apply score tape to each end, and then you're going to fold them over just like that, and you're going to go ahead and lay this piece on this piece, so just like that. So you're going to be creating a like a little band. Alright, so just make sure everything is lined up nice and neat. And the way I do it is just like so. Actually, don't want to do it this way. Nah, I like it this way. You know what? I think I had a hard time with it going through. So you know what? I think instead, because it was getting caught when you pull it over like this and you put this on top. Let me zoom in a little more. When you put this on top, sometimes my tag was catching on this part here, the little flap. So actually, I think I want to reverse it, and I want to put them underneath. So instead, I'm going to take this piece, set it in the center, and then I'm going to put these over the top. Yeah, I like that better. I just have to snip off a little because now they're just a tad too long. So I'm just going to snip off a little sliver. So you can see tiny little bit. Now it should fit in So I'm going to go ahead and take those off. Again, making sure my tape is not showing. And there. So now I have a little band. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to snip a sliver off of these two. There. And now I'm going to make these ones as well. So let's go ahead and stick it in right there. Okay. And then this one. Now it's got a little mark there, so I'm going to flip over to this side. Okay, and there we go. So we have our three little bands. Okay, and now I'm going to actually just go ahead and add my pattern paper to those. Okay, and then just like that, like magic, my pieces now have patterned paper on it. And why not a little bit of magic, seeing how I am doing a little witch book. All right, so we went ahead and added our strips of paper to both sides. And just to save time on the video, I did stop the camera and go ahead and added that. Even though they're little strips, they are a little time consuming just because there's, you know, you're doing 6 of them. So now let's go ahead and we are going to, let's go ahead and add our little binding strip. So again, this is just, I think it's 6. So yep, so it's 6 inches wide by 1.5 inches across, and I did score it 3/4 of an inch and applied 5/8 inch tape to both sides, folded in half. And now what we're going to do is we're going to, now I'm flipping over my tag, because you'll notice when you do go ahead and do it, you'll know, you can tell the difference between like a front and a back just by the way, like this has the little stitch dots on it, which is probably hard to see, but I can just tell. So they kind of do have a look of a front and a back to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and apply this right to the edge. So probably the easiest way, yeah, so I'm just going to do it right from the top. So I'm going to use my score line here in the center as my guide when I'm going ahead and putting that on. So I want to start right at the bottom, and I'm going to go pretty close to the score line because this is going to fold over on the inside. So I can go ahead and put it right up to the score line. So when you fold it over, you shouldn't really see any of your binding strip. All right, and then I'm just going to go ahead and burnish it down. Really good. And now for the other side, so this is this side. Now I want to put this one on this side because you do want to make them so they're going to open up. So you want to make sure you go ahead and put it on the opposite side of the other piece. And again, I'm going to go right up to the score line and all the way to the bottom of the tag itself. So I'm going to hold it there, and then I'm just going to guide it all the way up. Stick it down, and then when you fold it, again, you shouldn't see the binding strip. And then this will all get covered over when you go ahead and add it into the book. So now the other piece I want to prep, this is going to be my pocket. So this piece here for the pocket, did I write this measurement down? No, I didn't. Let me do that real quick as we do this with you. So this piece is going to be 8 3/4 wide. And I did this at 4 inches. Just write that down. And then you're going to do a 1/2 inch on each end and a 1/2 inch on the bottom to create your pocket. And then you're going to go ahead and miter the corners. Now I have my tape on it, so the way I like to miter my corners is I flip it over to the back because the tape has a tendency to hide some of your score lines. So I always flip it over and then I just kind of put my scissors on it and whack it off. And then we go ahead and fold. Just like that. And then now you want to go ahead and make sure you burnish down everything so everything is nice and flat and creased. Just like that. Alright, and now, oh, one last piece is, this is going to be a corner pocket, so we're going to cut this piece at 4 by 4, score on the 1/2 inch all the way around, or score at a 1/2 inch on all 4 sides, and then we're going to cut it from corner to corner. And let me just use my craft knife instead of throwing in the cutter. It'll just be quicker. So I'm taking my ruler and I'm lining it from the corner to corner. Just like that. And then again, because it's a corner, it's a pocket, I'm going to whack off this corner. And then on these, I like to just go straight back. Just like that. Okay. And then again on these, you want to go ahead and fold them down. And just make sure nothing's overhanging. I got that one pretty good. And burnish again. And there we go. So now we have our corner pockets. So I think now we are in good shape to go ahead and get started on this. So first thing we want to do is go ahead and add our gatefold pieces. So let's get some room here. Alrighty, and let me move this up so you can see it. And just in case I didn't say it, I did ink all my edges of my pattern paper with the Black Soot Distressed ink. So just in case you're wondering what I used. So now on this here, you want to make sure that everything is lined up. So I'm actually going to come in. Did I come in on this one or not? Let me see. Oh, I see what I did. I forgot a piece. Okay, hold on. Let me fix that, cut that, and then I'll be right back. Okay, I decided to go back the way I was originally going to do it instead of adding that extra piece because it's just a waste of paper. So what I want to do now is I'm going to put these two up against each other, and what I want to do is eyeball roughly, it's roughly a 1/4 inch. So I want to have a 1/4 inch from the bottom and a 1/4 inch on each side. And I want to make sure that these two pieces here are touching each other. So I'm just going to eyeball it. And when I'm pretty certain I have it even all the way around, I'm going to go ahead and remove my score tape. So looks good there. So what I'm going to do is just untuck this side. Make sure my tape isn't showing. And press that one down there. And then again, make sure they're butt up against each other here. And again, I'm going to hold them and just untuck my score tape. And there we go. So what we have now is this spot here. So then the next step is we are going to go ahead and add our pocket piece. So now you're going to open your flaps up for your gatefold, and now you're going to eyeball this in the center. you're going to make sure the bottom of the pocket right here lines up with the bottom of your tags. And again, you're going to go ahead and center it to the space. And again, it's probably maybe just about 1/4 of an inch on each side. So I'm going to go ahead and untuck my flap. And what do we get there? Push that down. And I do see that it's all black, so it is a little hard to see. But once we start putting pattern paper on, it'll show up really good. And make sure when you set it down that you're eyeballing over here to where you want it to line up, because it can get wonky on there if you don't line it up right. So there we go there. So let's go ahead and add some pattern paper just for a little contrast so you can see it. So I already pre-cut, so these should fit in here nicely. So it's going to go like that. And this piece is actually, it's hard to tell which is upside down or right side up on this one. I'm going to go this way because it looks like my ghost will be upside down if I go the other way. And then it's going to go like this. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and glue those pieces down. And I am using Fab Tack to go ahead and glue my pieces down. My bottle is getting empty. Do I have any more? I do. So when I stop the video, I will refill my bottle. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue it down. I like Fab Tack because it gives you a little bit of time to play with it, to set it into place, and it doesn't warp the paper. I know a lot of people are using the art glitter glue, which is an amazing glue, and I do like using that sometimes, but I find that it doesn't give me any play time. Like when I stick it, it's kind of stuck. It does come up pretty easy, but with the Fab Tack, I can kind of wiggle and maneuver a little bit, so I kind of like that. Where I don't find you get that kind of control with the art glitter glue. But it is an awesome glue to use, so I do switch back and forth sometimes. If I know I don't have to, if I know where I'm sticking down is going to be perfect, then I don't worry about it too much. Alrighty, so there's that. And now I'm going to go ahead and let's see, what sides is it going to be? So I think these were going to be on the inside, so I can go ahead and attach those as well. We're almost done with this page. Go ahead and line it up with this super cute, adorable little black kitty on this paper. In case you didn't see it. Isn't he so cute? I have a thing for black cats because they're so cute, and clearly because I got one tattooed on me. So all about the black kitties, which I guess is no surprise because I love Halloween. And I'm going to go ahead and add this one here. And close that perfect, just like that. So now you're starting to see, because we're getting a little bit of color on here. So then real quick, now I do have my little corner pockets. So now these are going to go right in the corner of the tag. And you're going to put this all the way up to the edge of the tag itself. Let me get contrast so you can see it. So it's going to go all the way right up to the corner. So the way I like to put these, same way I do everything else. So I'm going to line it up. And then I'm just going to untuck one side. And then I'll do the other side. Just like that. And then I did already cut out my pattern paper with the little witch hats, and that is going to sit right there. So I can go ahead right now and attach that one. And there's that. Let me just slide over a little bit. Now I'm going to go ahead and add this corner one. Making sure everything is lined up. I'm lined up to the bottom. I'm lined up to the side. And when you do it this way, just be careful because the tape is kind of slippery on the paper. So it will have a tendency, if you're not careful, it will slip on you. And then my little witch hats. So these corner pockets right here for the patterned paper, the way I figured it out for that size right there was the inside part of my triangle here was actually measuring about 3 inches roughly. So then my pattern paper, I cut it in a 2 3/4 inch by 2 3/4 inch square, and then I just sliced it down the middle. So that's how I made the pattern paper for those ones there. So now we just close up like this, and now we're going to do the top. And I thought that that ones here were a nice contrast to the white paper. So we're going to go ahead and attach these right now. Let me get my glue going here. The next video, I will have a refilled bottle of glue. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and add this one. And the nice thing about the dies is when you go ahead and cut your pattern paper with the dies, you can see what you're going to have. So you can line up exactly where you want them to. So like I wanted to make sure like the little bats were at the top corner. Just like on these here, I wanted to make sure I had a kitty at the top corner. So that's one nice thing is you can just line up where you want it and go ahead and then just cut it out. Versus if you are cutting with a cutting machine, you kind of just got to hope you get it lined up at the right spot. Unless you use like a point and cut feature. But you can't do that with pattern paper that is already made. So there is that. How cute is that? So now what you want to do is I'm going to go ahead and add my little strips. So now I want to make sure that they're centered. So the easiest way to do that is they're going to be 2 1/4 is going to be my center point. So I want to, let's see. So I guess the easiest way, first of all, is I'm going to mark on this one here. So pencil. Of course, I need a pencil. I can't find a pencil. Okay, well, I can just use a pen because I'm going to cover most of it over anyway. So on the back of these, I want to find where, whoops, get into the screen. So on these here, because these are 4 1/2 inches, halfway is going to be 2 1/4. So I'm going to flip over to the back side that I'm not going to see much of, which is going to be the one with the folded over flaps. And I'm just going to mark at 2 1/4 inch, roughly. I'm just going to put a little dot. on all of them. So that's my center spot on each one of those. And let's see. So the first one I came up at 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to, let's see, 3/4, 2 1/4. So I'm going to use my ruler and I'm going to measure 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to put 2 1/4 in the center and 3/4 of an inch from the bottom. And then basically what I'm going to do is stick the first hat down at the edge of the ruler over here. Let's see if I can zoom in more so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so let me move up. So I'm flipping over to the back side where I have my little dot for my center point, and I'm going to be gluing on, the first one is going to be attached down on this flap here. So if I take it and I flip it, that would be this. So when I flip down, it'll be there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply glue all the way up to where my little mark is for my center point. So I'm going to go quite up to it, not all the way, but just about up to the edge. Okay, and then I figured I was about 3/4 of an inch. So on my ruler, I'm going to find it at the 2 1/4 inch mark, and that's going to put that right in the center of my gate folds. And then I'm going to move up to the 3/4 inch spot. Oops. I look like I'm centered there, and then I can go ahead and just line it up and stick it down. So again, I measured up 3/4 of an inch on my ruler and put the line matching up there, and it should be good. Yep. Now let's see, where was I on the next one? Okay, so then I'm going to be a 1/2 inch up. So again, I'm going to go to my 2 1/4 inch mark on my ruler, put it in the center, and then I'm going to go up a 1/2 inch. And now because I made sure my bottom here, I was level when I put the ruler down from side to side, now I'm going to use my strip to make sure that, again, I am going to be level. So I'm going to put my 1/2 inch right on this part here. So again, now I'm going to find my center. Okay, so this is the back side. So now we're going to put this one, this is the middle one, so I want to glue onto this side. So if I take it and I flip it, I'm going to glue over here because then I'm going to press it down over there. And again, I'm going to apply my glue all the way up to the center point. Okay. So now I have my glue on that. So now I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to put it, the 2 1/4 inch mark here is going to go into the center. I think I got to stand, I can't see. So the 2 1/4 inch mark is going to go right into the center of where my things meet. And then I'm going to line up my ruler a 1/2 inch above. And then this should just be able to sit right there. Okay. So see, we're getting there. And now the last one, same thing. So now it's going to go onto this side, and we're just going to repeat the same steps. So this one is going to get glued, so it's going to go on this side. And then I'm lining up my 2 1/4 inch in the ruler, 1/2 inch above that one. And because the little flap here is, you know, kind of barrels out like this, it will kind of just hit the ruler and kind of finds its own stopping point. And there we go, just like that. And then your tag will slide down through. So I'm just going to let those get good and stuck first, because I don't want to risk them moving. Yep, they look pretty even to me. Alright, so that's what we just did on this, was this little flap here. And then in the inside right now, this is where we're at. Let me zoom back out. So, whoops. So this goes like that and like that. Okay, and now I'll be back in a second and we'll work on this side. Okay, so now we're going to get started on this little page here, which is the page. The tags are all falling out. Oops. Alright, so now we're going to start on this page right here. And we're going to go ahead and just make this little flap. And let me show you how to do that. Oops. So what I'm going to be using for my little decorative element on my flap is the Crealies die CLOTE 35. I get out of my light when I go up higher. Anyway, that is going to be this die right here. So now let me show you a trick that I figured out on how to get these centered nicely. So what I did was, to start off with, I wanted to measure how long my die was. So this die here happens to be approximately about 5 5/8 wide. Okay, and then the other helpful thing I did, I don't think you're going to see it very well, is, let me find a marker. So on the die, where it cuts in the thing, there's the cutting part here. So I flipped it over. This is the smooth side. This is the cutting side. So where it cuts the edge, it's in the center of this edge right here. I don't think I can get in closer. I guess maybe I can. I don't know how well. So let's see. So if you look, you can, the edge, the part that makes the cut. So I wanted to make sure that I knew exactly where it was, because sometimes even just a little bit, if you're off, makes a big difference in lining everything up. So what I did was I wanted to see where the center was, where this cut. So I just kind of looked at it and took my marker and I put a little line. So I have a little dot right on the edge on both ends of my die there. You can kind of see the black dot right there. So I have that on both ends. So that tells me where my center is, where the cutting spot is on here. So anyway, this die here happens to measure 5 5/8 wide, and I wanted to make the pocket. So 5 5/8 wide, so I'm going to add 1 inch to each end of that, because I need to add 1/2 inch score lines. So I cut my paper at 6 5/8, which is 1 inch longer, and I scored on each end at 1/2 inch. So you can see that. So then what I do is, now what I did was I figured out how deep this is. So if I put it on my thing here and I line it all up, it's about 1.25 inches from where it cuts on the edge here to here, give or take a little bit. So it's actually, if you line it up right, it's about 1 inch, but you want to come down a little further because you don't want to risk the center part here being right up at the top. So what I normally do is, now this piece here, you got 6 5/8 wide, and then your 1/2 inch score lines. So then what I normally do is I will take and I will measure down 1 inch, approximately 1 1/8 inches down from the top on both sides, and I make a little tick mark. And then I take my die, and so this is what, that way I know I'm going to be square. So then I take my die, and with my little dots, I'm going to line up at that 1 1/8 inch mark on each side. So that way I know I'm going to be square when I come down. And then I just use some washi tape and tape it down, and then I run it through my machine. And then what I did was, This is my back pocket. So this particular piece here measures 5 5/8 by 5 1/4. Is it 5 1/4? Yeah, 5 1/4, and then I'm going to cut it at, I mean not cut it, 5 1/4 by 5 5/8, and then on the 5 1/4 inch side I'm going to score at a 1/2 inch, and I'm going to apply my tape, and this is going to be part of the flap, and I want a little piece of this part here to stick over. So what I did was, I did it right. So what I did was I took this piece here, my little flap, and I folded down here, and then I just lined up after I did it. I didn't have the bottom score line on yet because a lot of this you need to eyeball. So what I did was I wanted just a little bit here to show. Oops. You can kind of see just a little bit. You'll see it better when the pattern paper's on it. Just a tad little bit. I just wanted that part showing. So what I did was I set this down, drew a little tick mark at where I wanted it, and then added a 1/2 inch so I could put my score line on. Alright, so I hope that kind of explains what I did, or at least how you can find out the center. So I would say the important point is to go ahead and mark on each end of the die right exactly where it cuts. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply my tape because I didn't get a chance to do it because I wanted to explain to you what I did. And then what I want to do now is, so now once you've cut it through, and this is the piece, it's still attached because you did it in the center, just going to angle it and then angle here. So you want to cut that piece off. You don't need it now. And then because we're making a pocket, I'm going to cut my corners. And you will notice that when you do run it through the machine, your score lines on the side do kind of almost get re-squished back to normal. So you just have to watch them because they may not quite fold right once you do that. So then I have this. So this is my piece with the score tape on the bottom, and this piece here is just going to go right on top like that. But what I wanted to do first was I just want to angle my corners on my flap. So I'm using the Deco punch. Just doing that, just to add a little more to it. And then I went ahead and I have already done my pattern paper the same way. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, let me zoom back out. So now I'm just going to take my pocket and I'm going to go ahead and line it up all the way around, making sure I'm even. And then once I know I have it where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and stick it down. Now I'm sticking it to the top of where my flap is. So hold on, let me show you. So my flap is right here. And you're going to put your pocket on just to the score line. So when you fold it over, it'll be like this. So then what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and add my pattern paper inside my pocket. And that's going to just line right up just like that. And then my pattern paper for the top is also going to line up. And I did the pattern paper the exact same way. What I did was just as when you're matting something, you kind of cut it at 1/4 inch smaller. So what I did was I went ahead and I cut this 1/4 inch smaller. So this was 5 3/8. Yep, 5 3/8. So what I did to find my center on this one, because I wanted to come down the right amount, was I lined my paper up square. So basically I lined it up square on my mat here. And then this has got all the measurements. So then I just, because now the die is wider than your pattern paper, let me put it over here. Because the die is now wider than your pattern paper, I just kind of eyeballed it. So I lined it up using the dots on my mat at 1 1/4 inch down. And then I just eyeballed side to side and then taped it down and cut it. And then what I did was on this piece here, once I had this part done, I just laid it on top And again, I just eyeballed it, made a little tick mark on my pattern paper, and that's where I knew where to cut it across. So now I can go ahead and glue this down with my filled glue bottle. Much quicker. And the reason why I put the pocket on first, I could have put the pattern paper on underneath, but you don't want anything to stick to the sides because of the flaps from the pocket. Looks good. Because you don't want anything catching. So that's why you put the pattern paper in afterwards. Otherwise your flaps from this piece here, the top piece, they could get caught when you're putting photo mats and things inside. And I didn't want anything catching. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this down, line it all up, and stick it down. There we go. And now we can go ahead and add this piece here. So I already, again, pre-cut my pattern paper. Oops. So now what I want to do first before I stick this pattern paper down is I need to attach my pocket. So, and I probably should have cut a piece for that one. So I'll do that afterwards. But what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to eyeball the center. I'm just going to stick this down to the center here. And then once I know I have my center, untuck. And I'm going to go ahead and stick that down. And then once I get at my spot, I can go ahead and press that down. And then my little ghost, which I chose the ghost because I figure, oops, they can be peeking out. Let me find where they go. This way. So now they're going to be peeking out from the side. So as long as I put it on the right way, okay. And they're still peeking. And go ahead, and I cut my pattern paper here 8 1/4 by 8 1/4. My happy little ghost. And let me just go ahead real quick while we're here and do this piece. So this is going to be 4 1/2 by 5 3/8. And I don't know what I want. So I'm also using the small paper pad of Hocus Pocus. And let's see, what do I want to put there? I have ghosts. Let's offset it with the black and white ghosts. So I'll have double ghosts. Will that look cute? Yeah, that actually looks cute. So let's see, what did I say? So we're going to go 5 1/2 wide. 4 1/2 wide, sorry. And then we're going to go 5 3/8. Let's see, looks good. So now I'm going to go ahead and get my corners. And now I'm going to ink real quick. This is why I kind of prep everything first, just because some of these little bits are just tedious, and you know what I'm doing anyway. Plus this is going to be a super long video tutorial. So I'll know better when I have it all done, but it might be in 2 parts. We'll see how far. We'll see how far we get. Yeah. I think that looks cute, just like that. So now I'm going to go ahead and stick that down. There we go. Cool. Alright, so just like that. So just a little flap. This will be a nice area here for photos and stuff. And then the little flap. And then this piece here that's now driving me crazy because it keeps coming untucked. Yeah. Anyway, I'll do that after. I have to actually make a tag. So anyway, we open up like this. And then like this. And then our little flap. And then we open up all the way. Alrighty, so next up we will be working on actual page 1. Alright, I'll be right back. Okay, so now we're going to get started on our actual first page. So I think I also labeled this as page A. So we're going to work on the front of page 1 or page A, either way. So this one is really simple. So in the original album, that is going to be this cute little pocket right here. And it just has some tags in it. So this one is really simple. So let's go ahead and get started on that one. Oops. So what you're going to need to do first of all is you're going to have to cut your pocket, and your pocket is going to be 9 by 4. Score 1/2 inch on each end on the 9-inch side, and then rotate, and on the 4-inch side you're going to score again at 1/2 inch. And we're making a pocket, so we want to go ahead and whack off those corners. And then of course apply score tape, and I have 3/8 inch score tape. So we're going to go ahead and fold on our score lines to make the pocket. Okay, and then you want to burnish really well so it all lays nice and flat. And then you're going to need, for the flat piece, this is going to be 8 inches wide by 6 inches. So 8 by 6, and you're going to put it in your scoreboard, and on the 6-inch side you're going to score it 1/2 inch and add score tape, and then go ahead and fold it over and burnish. And this is going to be the flap. So on the flap, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and use my Deco Punch again. And this is a We Are Memory Keepers. I'm not sure if this is still around or not, but I'm just adding a fancy little edge. So now we're going to go ahead and attach. So again, let's see if I can push this down. So because you have the 1/2 inch crease here for your flap, and there's nothing else in it right now, you can go ahead and press it down. So that way you can make sure that you are lining this up nice and straight. So again, I'm going to eyeball approximately 1/4 inch from the edge of my page. It looks further, but it's because of all the pages there. And 1/4 inch away from my score line. And I'm going to do approximately about the same distance from the bottom. So I'm going to center it to the space. I'm going to go ahead and stick it down. And I'm just going to walk it over so we stay nice and squared off. And then for my flat piece, I'm going to have to rotate my book a little, just so I know I get it even. So now what I want to do is, again, I want to make sure my flap is lined up to my pocket I just laid down. So make sure it's lined up edge to edge, here to here. Let's see, here to here. And then again, I'm going to go approximately 1/4 inch down from the top. And this way everything is going to be about the same all the way around. So let's see. I'm going to hold it, untuck, and then I'm going to go ahead, stick it down. And there we go. Now I have my flat. Make sure I burnish that really well. Just like that. So now I went ahead and again, of course, I went ahead and prepped my pieces. So all of my cardstock pieces are a 1/4 inch smaller. And we can go ahead and get them stuck on. So this is going to be my bottom piece for my pocket. So I can stick that on now. And I have to say, this Hocus Pocus paper from Michaels, the Recollection one, is absolutely gorgeous. Every time I'm flipping through it and deciding what pattern paper I want to use, it makes me love it even more. Because the images on here are just so cute. And then my pocket flap. Now, it is very busy paper, so on my tag I'm going to put on top, I kind of went simple. And I'll show you in 1 second when we get there. And I did use the Deco Punch on my pattern paper. Smooth it down. And then this is going to be up here. Sometimes depending on your space and what you have, I sometimes will close down and then press. Because right now if I press down I'm going to get the edge of the book and then I'm going to get the dies that are up there and I don't want to mess it up. Then that's going to go right there. As you can see, we are very busy on this page. But that's okay because it's just a pocket. And you can always add photos to the spaces on the pockets if you want to. Very cute. So here we have that. So now what I did was, just because, so you saw me use the tags as a gatefold, now I'm going to use the tags as part of my closure. And all I want to do is I'm simply going to put it here. So I did go with a little less toned down paper. And I also used the next size down on my dies. So I used the large one for my gate. And now I'm going down 1 size for this particular little flap. And I just love the fact that you get the 2 dies. So you get the one to make your base piece, and then you get one to cut out your patterned paper piece. And it's kind of cool. And then on the back side, because part of this is going to show, so I'm just going to go ahead and do the whole thing. Now, if you were going to add a magnet, this is where you would do it. So before you put this piece on, you go ahead and add a little magnet or something right to the edge, right to the edge there. But I actually am out of magnets and I need to order some. So unfortunately, I won't be using magnets on this book. Had I had the magnets, I would have put it underneath the pattern paper right there. So now what I'm going to do is, now because I want to make sure that I have this lined up nice and neat, I'm going to use my centering ruler, find the center of my page, which it is 8 inches, so 4 inches is going to be my center. And I'm just going to kind of let it hang out up there. Maybe. And then my tag, actually now I gotta measure my tag. So my tag is about 3 3/8. So find my center again. And I want to make it so that the edges of here on my tag, the corners, I want to line up to the corner part of here. So what I want to do is find my center right there, and then here. That looks to be about good right there, so I centered that off. And I just want to make sure I stay in that spot, so I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to mark it. So I'm just going to put a little line right here and a little one on this side. So when I set it down, I'll know approximately where it's got to go. And I'm not too worried about those pencil lines there, only for the fact that there's so much, the paper is so busy, you're not even going to know I put a mark there. So I'm going to glue it down, and I'm taking my glue almost to the edge. So I put my glue almost right to the edge there, not quite, because I just don't want to risk it getting over. So now I'm going to find my dots that I've now lost. Oh, I see it. So I'm going to line it up there. And then just press it down. And make sure my glue didn't seep down. Nope, we're good. So now what you can do, so this, now that this piece isn't here, you can add a nice embellishment to the top of this. And if you like later, I probably will add magnets once I get them. So all I got to do is just cut something here and then just cover it over with some pattern paper so it will look like another embellishment. And right here is this cute little cauldron, which is probably pretty close to where the magnet should go. So I can actually punch out another cauldron, turn it the right way because it looks like it's spilling out here. I can hide the magnet under there, and then because this is pattern paper here with the dots, I can just punch out a circle of the dots again and go ahead and throw the magnet underneath the pattern paper and then just add it. So it would just, you won't even really notice it, and it'll look nice because it'll look like it was made to go like that, not the fact that you didn't have magnets when you were doing it. All right, so I will be back in a moment and we will start on the next page. All right, who's ready to make a waterfall? So the page that we're going to work on now is going to be this page right here. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Let me just recap the page with you real quick. So it opens up like this, and then you just have your waterfall pages. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on that one. I'll show you how to make it. So we need to prep a few pieces first. So first of all, now we're going to do this page a little different than we did the front cover pages. So to start with, you need a piece of 8.5, you need a piece 8 by 8 of plain cardstock, and this is going to have no score lines to it at all. Then what you're going to need is your pattern paper that you want on the top, and I just cut this a 1/4 inch smaller. So this specific piece here is 7 3/4 by 7 3/4. Then you're going to need your little flaps to hold your stuff together. And these are cut with the 2nd to large die. So you're using this one and then the one for the pattern. And what you want to do is after you cut it, place this back into your scoreboard. Or place it not back into, but into, because you haven't done it yet. And you are going to score each one of these pieces at, what did I do? At, let me see, 3 7/8. So you're going to put this all the way to the top, and then make sure the little point is all the way here, and you're going to score it at 3 7/8 down the line, center there. You can do that to both pieces, and then go ahead and fold it and burnish it down. Then what you want to do is when you cut your pattern paper, of course you're going to have the full length, or not full length, but I mean, go a little over halfway because you don't want to waste too much paper. Lay this over the top of it. And then with your pencil, just go ahead and make a little tick mark. So you're going to give yourself roughly 1/8 of an inch space. Make a little tick mark on it and then go ahead and cut it down to size. And you're going to do that. You're going to need to do the 2 side pieces here and oops, this and this. And then you're also going to have to do the same thing for your inside pieces here. All right, so go ahead and cut those down. So let me move these out of the way. We'll attach those in a few minutes. Then you're also going to need 5 pieces at 6 1/8 by 6, and these are going to be for your waterfall. So let me show you how to go ahead and cut that with the die. So just as a reminder, I'm using the Crealies die CLOTE 35. Yeah, let me get out of the plastic. It just creates such a glare. So right there, CLOTE 35. And that is this pretty little die. So what you want to do, let me zoom in a little bit. Hold on. I hate when I zoom out, it does that. Okay, so on this piece here, so when you go ahead and do these, they're 6 1/8 by 6, and you're going to go ahead and score on the 6-inch side at 1/2 inch. I feel like I'm out of focus. So you're going to go ahead and score at 1/2 inch. Now what you want to do before you start putting these in your machine to go ahead and cut the dies, you're going to want to go ahead and fold on your score line and make sure you burnish it really well. You want to do that only because when you go ahead and run these through the machine, when you cut them, your cutting machine that you're going to use is going to go ahead and kind of uncrease your line, and then sometimes it doesn't fold right. It kind of folds a little wonky. So what you want to do now is, for your first piece, you're going to want to take and do a few little measurements. And let me get my ruler. So because this right here, the width of this is 6 1/8 wide, your center point is going to be 3 1/16. So what you want to do for that is you're going to go ahead and you're going to find your center, which is going to be 3 1/16, and you're going to make a little tick mark right there. Okay, and then with my dies, they're, like I said, they're roughly 1 inch in depth. If you watched earlier, when you go down, it's roughly 1 inch from this mark to the top of here. So what I like to do is I'm going to go down 1 1/8 inch, and I'm going to make a tick mark right there, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. I've actually already made my tick marks. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, place my die. So, whoops, I'm out of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and place my die, and remember how we put our little marks, our little, whoops, where are we? It's not going to show, but we put our little Sharpie marks on the corners here. And what I went ahead and did while off camera when I was doing this again is I wanted to know pretty much where my center was on my die here. So the way I did that was I literally found my corners of my round spot here, and because it's got little stitch pattern, I took and I went in each side and I went all the way up, going in one little dot at a time till I found the center spot, and then I just made another little mark with the Sharpie on my die right here, just so I knew where the center was. So what I want to do on this now is I'm going to take and I'm going to line up my little pencil mark here with my, so let's see, we're going to start with the center first, so I know I'm in the center spot, and then I'm just going to line up my Sharpie mark right here to my pencil mark here. I'm going to do that on both sides, and then with my washi tape, I'm just going to go ahead and push it down, just like that, and I'm going to run it through my machine. Give me 1 second. Okay, I could stop the video, but I don't feel like doing that right now. So what I did was, now it's all cut out. So there we go. And then just go ahead and chop off the sides a little, so you get your piece to fall. And then you can just go ahead and press down that again. So now, if you don't want to take and have to measure everything again, what you can do is pretend this one's not cut. I don't have a cut piece, but what you would do is lay the piece that you just cut on the uncut piece. And actually, let me stop the video, cut a piece real quick, and then I can explain to you what I'm doing. Okay, so let me just show you what I'm doing here. So here's my cut piece right here, and then my score line. So I'm just going to go ahead and line this up perfectly square, so my score lines over here match. And then it's hard to see, but this is my piece there. So what I'm going to do is actually take, once I know everything's lined up, I'm going to go ahead and replace my die into my cut marks. And because it's got a stitched pattern on it from the dies, oops, why is it not working? So there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and lay it back down here on my stitch marks, and I'm going to press my washi tape down, and then I'm going to go on the side with my nail, just kind of press it down a little bit, because the little stitch marks on the die actually kind of lock into the one you've already cut. So then you can just kind of carefully lift it a little bit to kind of get it unstuck, and then just pull this piece out, and then you can go ahead and run it through your machine and cut it again. Alright, so that's a quick way that you can go ahead and do those. So let me just go ahead and add tape to this piece. Alright. And so now we can actually go ahead and start assembling all this. Okay, so let's go ahead and assemble now. So you should have all your pieces prepped and ready to go. These are the waterfall, these are my tags. So let's start off, let's go ahead and get these attached first. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you're centered on this. So obviously this is 4 inches, it would be your center mark. So let's go ahead and just go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to use my grid right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's my center there. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Center there. And what are my tags? They are 1, 2, 3. So roughly 3 1/4 mark is how big they are. So let's see. So let me just find the center of this. So we go 3 1/4. This is going to be my center. And I'm just doing the math with you so you guys know how to do it. Or you can see how I figure it out. Alright, so I need to get it lined up all the way. So I am 1 5/8 is my center. Roughly 1 5/8. So let's go ahead and alright, so what I want to do is on my paper here, I want to try to make sure I get these as lined up as centered as possible. So you can see like on here I have my 4-inch mark here, and then I have my center mark on this. So you want to make sure like both the dots match. And for that, I'm just going to go ahead and use glue, because the glue is going to give me a little bit of time, a little wiggle room. So let me go ahead and glue that on. So it's my center. And I'm going to go all the way up to my fold line. Just like that. And then I'm going to do the other one. So now this side's going to be easy. So you wouldn't necessarily have to measure if you didn't want to. What you want to make sure, because your lines could be off. So what you really want to do is make sure the 2 points here are lined up. And they're pretty close to touching. There's probably about a 1/4 inch difference. So you'd know, you can eyeball that one. That one's pretty easy. And you want to make sure they're even anyway. So just in case your measurement is a little off, you don't want to accidentally get them wrong. So roughly, so right there. Oops, that way. So go ahead and press it down. Just like that. So there you go. If you got your little flaps. So now what you can do is now you can go ahead and put your paper down. And these caps are kind of non-directional, so they can probably go anywhere they want. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this piece down now. And I'm going to do one step real quick before I put my waterfall on. So hold on one second. So I'm going to go ahead and line him up. Trying to make sure I'm even all the way around. Just like that. Okay, so what I want to do first before I go too far and get the waterfall on is I want to go ahead and add my score tape now. And you want to add score tape, or I mean, if you want to glue, you can go ahead and glue. But like I've said before, score tape I prefer on certain things, and this is one of the ones I prefer it on. So you want to make sure if you're going to use score tape, go ahead and add the score tape after you've added these little flaps here, but before you go ahead and put on your waterfall. Because once you put your waterfall on, it does become thicker, and you don't want to risk bending anything either. So if you can get that on first, that will work out great. And if you decide you're gluing, then it doesn't really matter. I will probably do a combination of both just to keep it secure, because the waterfall can get kind of heavy. So I definitely want to put the tape on first, and then I'll go ahead and use glue to give these a little bit more backing. Alright, so there we go. We have that. So let's go ahead and what do I want to do next? I guess I'll show you my closure part. So for the closure, what I did was I went ahead and I punched out 2 1-inch circles out of black cardstock, and I went ahead and put a brad through it. I also punched out 1-inch circle of my pattern paper, just because I want to kind of double up the thickness of these. And just real quick, a little tip to show you how I found the center is what I did was I took my 1-inch circle and I folded it in half, and then unfolded it, turned it, and then fold it in half again, and then I folded that piece in half, so you have like a little pizza pie. And then the tip part here, I just took my scissors and I just whacked off the tip, because that should technically be the center. And then you have your little hole in it in the center spot. And then I just placed it over a clean piece of cardstock, put it over, and then I actually used a white gel pen and I made a dot in the center of those. That way when I went ahead and punched it out, I could see through my punch the hole of the white dot, because otherwise black on black is a little hard. And I don't know what I did with my punch, so I can't show you. Anyway, that's what I did. So then I was able to line it up through the hole in the punch, and I could see my center spot. Alright, so now what I want to do, go ahead, take these out. So I want to find roughly where I want to go ahead and put these for the string. So again, I'm going to go ahead and find my little center spot. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Take this out. So I want to kind of get them even, so I'm going to hold that one there. And let's see, there. Probably right there. So again, I'm going to use my white gel pen. Make little dots. Let me show you. So you can see my two little white dots. So that's where I need to punch holes for my to put my brads through, and I need to find my punch. Alright, found it. Alright, so I'm using the smaller setting. So what I was talking about was the little hole in here in your punch. It's hard to see through with the black. So, and actually I need my deeper punch. So then it wouldn't matter. So I'm going to go ahead and place my paper in and punch a hole. With the white dot, it makes it easy to line everything up. That's that one. And you definitely want to do all this before you put your waterfall together, just because you're going to probably jack up your waterfall otherwise. Alright, so I have that done there. Keep your punch close because you're going to need it again. So that's the way my kitties go. So now what I'm going to do is the pieces that I cut for this part here, I'm going to go ahead and glue them on now. Don't worry about the hole you just punched because that's going to come in handy in a second. So I don't want to get any glue through my hole. Excuse me. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up like this and add this part here. Just because if you got any glue that's going to squish through that hole, you don't want it to get on your pattern paper. And this is non-directional paper, so it doesn't matter on this one. Make sure you got it all lined up. And trying to see what way I want my kitties peeking. I think I like them this way. Alright, so once that's down like that now, so now that you have to re-punch your holes, so now that you put the holes in, you have the paper, the back of the pattern paper showing, so now you have a white spot, so it gives you a good spot that you don't have to remark. You could do all this at once, but I kind of like to do it as I go, just because that way I don't have any marks on my pattern paper. Okay, so that's done there, so you shouldn't need to do that again. So now you have your holes. So now what you want to do is go ahead and add your brads to your little pieces. And now you're going to go ahead and, I'm using a big enough brad right here. Let me zoom in. Right. I'm using a big enough brad right here. So what I want to do is kind of give my paper, just kind of bend it a little bit around the brad, because you're going to want it bent like that when you go ahead and do your string through it. So just give it a little lift. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and add my little closure. Off camera, sorry. Let me do this one on so you can see. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it through. And then just open up the legs of the brad like that. And then you just want to make sure that your pieces are done really well. So I'm just going to use something to flatten it out a little bit. So those are on like that. Actually, let me turn my brad. So I want my spider facing up. So make sure you get your spiders, or if you have a decorative element on your brads, before you do the next step, just make sure that they're facing the direction that you want them to go. Since both my little spiders are crawling up. And just to make sure, I want to make sure they're going to stay in place, I'm just going to add a little piece of score tape to that spot so they don't move. And let's just make sure they didn't move. So they're perfect. So now what you can go ahead and do is now you can add your back piece of your pattern paper to it. And you can just put it right over there. So then that will hide the brads. In my original book, I ended up doing that afterwards because I forgot. And I had to hide my little pieces. So he's going to go here because the little ghost is up. So this one is a little more directional. So I can go ahead and remove the backing for that score tape. And now I'm going to go ahead and add glue. And make sure you add plenty of glue. And it looks like, oops, a little white spot on my paper showing. I don't know what that is. So go ahead and stick it down there. Again, making sure everything is all lined up. And because my brad is kind of lumpy there now, I can't really push it down on the desk. So just push it down with my thumb. And then we'll do the next side. There's that. Go ahead and press it down. And there's that. So cute. Alright, so let's go ahead now and add the waterfall pages. So the only thing that I'm not going to do right now, and I'll come back afterwards and show you, is I'm not going to put the little strips of pattern paper at the bottom of these, just because I want to use my scraps to cut that out, and I don't want to waste good paper right now, and it's something that you can just use your scraps for. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and start putting my waterfall on. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to eyeball it roughly just to see if you want a measurement. It's probably, let's see. I lost my good ruler and this one's hard to read. So it's roughly just about 1 inch. It's a little less than 1 inch from each side. So it looks about even enough for me. As long as it's close, I think we'll be good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hold my first piece down here. And I want to leave probably about 1/4 inch of my pattern paper at the top here peeking out. So I'm going to make sure, I'm going to get it to where I feel like that's what I like. And I'm going to go ahead, hold it down, untuck my flap, and make sure no overhang on tape. And I'm going to go ahead and stick it down. That looks pretty good to me. I like that. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add the rest of my pieces. Making sure it's lined up. So I'm going to go ahead and flip the first one back, because what's important to me is making sure that I am lined up nice and even from side to side. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that lines up nice. And I also want to go as close as I can to getting no pattern paper underneath showing. So you might have to kind of wiggle a little bit just to get it even up there. And I don't care if I lose just a little bit, like, because technically if everything folds right, it should just butt up against this piece here. But this one just off just a tad. So I'm going to go ahead now and stick it down. And then I'm just going to burnish this so it stays nice and flat. And then my next piece. So to start with, I'm going to butt it right up against the cardstock there so you see no pattern paper. And then fold this one down. Making sure I'm, whoops, I slipped. Making sure I'm even. Okay. Perfect. Do that one. Almost done. I hope I'm not going off crooked. I can't tell. I don't think so, though. So everything still lining up nice and straight from here and here. And then the last piece. Perfect. There we go. And let's see how we look. Pretty good. There you go. And that's how I do the waterfall, right like that. So let me just show you the closure now. So for my closure, for my little buttons, I'm going to use a little piece of the twine. And I didn't measure, just kind of tore it out. And what I want to do for this spot here is I'm going to I'm going to take this piece here and I'm just going to wrap it around just like that. And then I'm just going to tie a knot in it. So it's tied around the brad right there. And that piece is not going to go anywhere. Oops. And then I'm just going to snip off the extra. So you don't need that piece now. And then so the reason why you want to go ahead and kind of mold it around your brad is just because you want to be able to get your string to go wrap around. So then you're just going to go ahead, wrap it a few times to see what length you need. And I think that's good right there. And then I'm going to do the part here. And then this is where you can go ahead and add a little charm. So I happen to have I don't know if you can see her, a super cute little witch charm. She's on her broom. Oops. So I'm going to go ahead and tie her on. So she'll be my little dangle charm. And roughly where I want her to hang when she's closed. So I think right there is about good. So now I'm just going to go ahead and tie her on. Make sure, looks about good right there. Give her a couple little knots, just like that. And I'm going to just snip off just a little bit. Very good. And I think I'm just going to add a little bit of art glitter glue now to the string, just so it doesn't unravel. Put that right around my knot. And then once I know that's good and dry on there, I can go ahead and cut off the little excess of the string right there. Anyway, and that's how you make that part. So now she's flying. So now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and attach this now to my book. So this is going to get attached to the front side of my A page. Let's clear out my mess. I'm sorry, the back side of A. So this is going to be AB. So we just did AB side. And I actually wrote that on my notes. I don't know if I said that. Let me zoom out. So now this piece here, we are going to go ahead, let me get rid of these papers out of the way. So now you're going to center this to the page, and that was the whole reason why we wanted to go ahead and add our score tape first. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some extra glue, and I'm going to try to get some extra glue right around where my little tag flap things are right there. And now I'm going to go ahead and put it on, line it up. I'm going to stand up for this. So I'm going to eyeball everything, make sure we're all even all the way around. And because I'm using the Fab-Tech, I have some wiggle room with my glue. So I can make sure everything is squared off. And that looks good to me. So now what I'm going to do is I just feel underneath for my score tape. Press that down there. Now before I go ahead and attach too much of the sides, I'm going to go ahead and just remove the tape from the other pieces. Because if you attach 3 of the sides, your 4th piece is not going to be so much fun to get out of there. Alrighty, and just go ahead now and I'm just going to press it all down. And there you go. So now we have that page right there, and she's just going to be floating around. And we will be back and we'll get started on this page right here. Alright, I'll see you guys in a second. Alright, that concludes this part of the video tutorial, and please check back for the next video tutorials for this mini album. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions, be sure to leave them down below and I'd be happy to help you. And if you like what you see, give me a thumbs up. I would love it if you would subscribe. And until next time, guys, happy crafting. Bye!